Well, Dawson, it's great to have you back on the show. The last time was at least, I think, 2 years ago, and we were talking about the previous record, Handmade, and since then, you guys have come out with a new album called Places that I love the cover of because it just makes you look like you guys are just chilling on the dock there, and I love that. So welcome back to the show, dude.
Thanks, man. Paul, I love you. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, and the funny thing about the cover, I'm glad that you mentioned that too. That's actually my dad. So I'm sitting next to my dad on the dock, and we're just fishing, and it's him looking at me. And I thought it was a sentimental thing because it's kind of like looking back on past years that you've possibly missed in your life. So yeah, so that's a whole cover basically right there. Is just my dad looking at me going, man, I wish I had long hair at some point in my life. Again.
Well, dude, if I was sitting beside you, I would be looking longingly at your locks as well, because I as well am a cue ball, and yeah, it's just you kind of miss it, but enjoy it, man, enjoy it.
And everyone, like my girlfriend tells me all the time, she's like, just cut your hair. And I'm like, no, because you know what's going to happen is that I'm going to lose it, and then I'll have 40 years of not having it, so I might as well do it now.
Yeah.
So
I feel you, man. I feel you. Well, cool deal. Now,
embrace it.
Now, the last time we talked, of course, we were chatting about the album Handmade, which had this whole kind of interesting viewpoint of having all instruments that you guys had made for the record to play on the record. And we had talked a little bit about kind of the ups and downs of having done that, not only the process of making it, but also the process of having to do instruments or to play on instruments that weren't necessarily technically professionally made, and kind of the funness that came along with that.
Right.
What did it feel like to go into the studio this time not having to have that theme to follow?
Are you talking about like not having to, that this time we could actually use good instruments, or that?
Yeah, more or less.
Okay. Well, I mean, I do everything here at my studio, so I produce and record and mix and master everything here, and so it was kind of a similar thing, and just the fact that like when we were doing demos and stuff, we're kind of like passively actually keeping a lot of stuff.
Okay.
So for example, like when we play a guitar part or something, and it just sounds really good and lots of energy in that demo, I have the gear to make that, good enough to use in the final take. So that was kind of how all of Handmade was like, it was us kind of recording as demos with these crappy instruments, kind of doing all that stuff. But also we weren't just like doing demos and then going to like a studio, in Seattle or Chicago or somewhere to have a great studio. We were doing it all here because I have all of the stuff I need. So kind of it was like the same thing where demo takes were kind of final takes at the end of the day, and that's one thing that, and I have this conversation so many times with people, because I feel like people don't embrace it in the same way, because a lot of people don't do their entire album themselves. Is the fact that when you do a demo and you have this like passion in your soul and you scream something with a lot of passion, it's really hard to replicate that like 2 months later when you go to another studio and then try to replicate it with a better microphone or something.
Right.
So it's the same thing. So going back to Handmade in this album, it was very similar. It was just that we had better instruments to play.
That's all right. I mean, in a lot of ways, the process didn't change that much. It was just that you didn't have the wild card of, will this instrument work this time? Exactly,
yeah. I think the biggest wild card would just have been, working with Cody, Andy, and Ian, which I hadn't really worked with before up until now. It was really fun, actually, because Andy, our guitar player, was awesome in going to his house and just doing demos and then bringing them over and sharing so it was a different creative process than working with my brothers back when we did Handmade. So that was probably the hardest part, but also the most fun and new part about this album.
And without getting into like the where-tos and wherefores of why you guys changed lineups, and we've already kind of discussed this a little bit off air, that there's not really anything big going on. There's no major secret or anything, but we're just moving past it. How did you end up recruiting the new guys? I mean, how did you know them to begin with?
Well, they've like been behind the scenes kind of with the ongoing concept for a long time. Like, they've been in a few bands around here in our area for years and years, and have recorded a lot of their bands. And on top of that, our bass player Ian has helped me film every single Ongoing Concept music video that we've ever done.
Nice.
He's always filming, like every part that I'm in the video, he's filming me because I can't film myself. So it's like it's always been that whole thing. And then on top of that, like Andy, guitar player, is a really good friend of mine. Actually, he's for Ongoing Concept lore, if anyone wants to know. He is the sheriff in the saloon video that comes in and kicks open the door. But that was a long time ago. But so all these people are really good friends of mine, known forever, and they just fit. Yeah. So it wasn't really a hard decision. It was just more like what people really are invested in this band, and there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff with these guys that people didn't know about, and that's why it felt so normal when they joined.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. Now, I've got something that's, I don't know, this may sound weird because I can kind of understand how it would, because I grew up in a very small town. But given the fact that you guys, you didn't have to go out and look for people. It wasn't like you put up a thing on Facebook like, hey, we're looking for a new bassist or a new drummer or anything like that. You were able to get people who are kind of around you. You have your own studio, which you do all your recording in, and you are very hands-on with all the music videos and direct them and all that good stuff. Do you think part of that is kind of I don't want to say a symptom, but a result maybe of living in kind of an area that's a little bit more isolated? Because, Idaho's kind of its own little world in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I definitely think that's part of it. Yeah, I grew up in a very DIY family. We just built stuff ourselves. We did all this stuff like without using other people. We were like, if we can do it ourselves, we don't have to pay someone to do it. And that mentality, I feel like, made me become who I am with doing everything myself, but also it made me, I think, subconsciously think, I don't need to go out of this area to find the things that I need to create what I need to create.
Right.
There are people here that can do what others can do. It's just that we're in an isolated area. It is harder for people to get known on the internet, or not even the internet, but like in general, people don't come out of Idaho being famous very often. And I'm not saying that I'm famous, but like, you understand what I'm saying? It's not like there's someone in LA, or Chicago or New York or something where it's just, there's millions of people and there's so much opportunity there. Here it's not as much, but that there's people that exist that probably exist in those very high populated areas as well.
Yeah.
It's just that no one has discovered these people yet. So that's why I've always kind of made sure that everyone that has been in the Ongoing Concept is from this area, because I want to make sure that they're like my friends. I want to make sure that they're capable of doing what I want them to do. And it just scares me to like think about hiring someone I've never really met before and flying them here, spending money on them every time they got to go on tour, fly in and do all this. It's just expensive, and it's very scary, I guess. So,
yeah. No, I get that. I do. Where I grew up, we had a blinking light. When I first moved there was a little gas station convenience store thing that was actually built in an old country jail, and then it eventually closed and became somebody's like pottery studio. And then there was nothing. So yeah, I totally know what you mean. And there is something nice about being able to say, hey, it's like, hey, I know you do this thing. You want to come do that thing over here with me and be a part of the thing that I'm doing. There is something very cool and special about that. And plus, I think the biggest problem that most people have when they get a new band member is usually not, can they play the song? It's usually not, can they be a productive member of a band? It's, can I stand to be around them for the amount of time that's going to be on the road or in the studio? And that's a real problem when you're bringing in somebody who you haven't met, because you have to feel that out while figuring out whether or not they actually can play it, which usually, like I said, is kind of a secondary thing almost. But for you, that's a good thing, because you don't have to have that question, because you know these guys already.
Exactly. And that's the biggest problem I have is like, there are so many tours, and like, this might sound so mean to some people, but there are so many tours where we start a tour and there's, two bands on the tour as well. And like, we start out just like, oh man, these guys are so cool. These guys are so cool. And then 2 weeks later, I start going, oh man, this person in this band is kind of annoying.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the tour, I'm like, holy cow, I don't even have to be in the band with this kid, and he's annoying to me. So, like, I've never met him before. So I can understand the struggle that bands have, like, hiring people that are across the country or, like, they've never met before.
Right.
So that's why I've been so much into making sure that I actually am, like, really good friends with the people before they come into the band. And obviously with Kyle and Parker, they were my brothers, so I knew them my entire life. I have to have that brotherly, like, friendship with anyone else that I work with. And I think that was another thing too, is that when Kyle and Parker left, I needed that bond with people. So that's how this whole formation started. And I can't see it any other way. Some people might see it differently, but I've grown up this way my whole life, so I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
I can't. It's hard to get out of your comfort zone.
No kidding.
I got to do it that way.
No kidding. Although I got to say, this is kind of funny, and it's just funny on concept level because I totally get it, but it is kind of amusing the fact that I would say you guys perform a kind of music that if it works well, it almost makes people feel uncomfortable, but you don't want to get out of a certain comfort zone to make the music. But, that's just kind of me.
True. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there's some uncomfortable parts, like, and I'm guessing when you mean like uncomfortable, it means just like we have songs that don't really mesh with people's style, or I don't know, because we just change things up so much, and it's not really one thing all the time. It's people kind of don't know what to expect.
Oh yeah, that's a big part of it too. But I would just say, aggressive music or loud music, whatever you want to talk about. I mean, however you want to phrase it. I mean, that the kind of the thing is, I mean, it's like if it feels cushy or somehow very comfortable, then I mean, it's like, what is it really doing? Because I mean, it has to have that attitude, which is not something that is comforting, I guess I would say. Although I enjoy it, but that's just my thought.
I will say something, Paul.
Sure.
I don't really like heavy music. So.
You know what? I'm not going to lie. That doesn't surprise me about you at all. I mean, I think we talked about this when I talked about before. I mean, I think that there is a certain level of that is amusing, but at the same time, I've talked to enough band members that are like, yeah, we play this. I don't listen to this at all.
and like, I do like heavy music to an extent, but like, it's just that I am getting older, and like, Saloon was basically like me loving it, and then Handmade was me being like, I love it, but I want to be able to blend it so that everyone can listen to it. And then Places is like me just being like, I really, really, really want to somehow blend like really groovy, fun music into like maybe some metal at some point. So it's just a progression. And it's not that I don't hate heavy music. It's that I hate when people write the same record 1,000 times. It sounds exactly the same. Like, I feel bad for them. I feel like, oh man, you just must go to sleep at night going, I have to somehow write something I hate again and again, like, because they've gotten themselves into a corner and they can't get out. Yeah. They have to just keep doing it, So I feel bad for those people, and I never wanted to be that. So that's why with Handmade coming out, I was like, we just need to like do something really drastic so that people don't know where we're going to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can
just to get out of it.
Sure. Sure.
It's like when someone plays a role in some TV show and they play a character for 9 seasons, and like, then they don't have the show anymore. And then no one can ever look at them the same again. It's just, they're always that character no matter what movie they play later on after their career. That's kind of what I don't want. So yeah, I don't know. I could go on for hours. I ramble way too much sometimes.
No, it's okay, man. And it's funny because actually I'm part of a podcast that I don't do as often as I would like to anymore. But we've had many conversation about that. How there is this weird dichotomy out of like there's a group of fans of any given band who that's what they really want, is like they want them to do the last album that they really love by that band. They want them to do that again. And yet at the same time, that's not very fulfilling for the artist most times. They would like to do something a little different, try something out, maybe even switch genres entirely. Because while we can take your album out of the CD player or skip to the next track if we want to listen to something different, you guys are stuck performing the things that you guys have published for as long as you're performing under that band name. I mean, that's the expectation. I mean, sure, you could just go in and play a bunch of Elvis and Beatles covers if you wanted to, but I don't think anyone would pay to see you guys again because that's not what you guys are known for. Exactly. I mean, it's easy as a fan to forget that part of it, even though, I mean, sure, there are bands that I would really love to hear a part 2 of certain albums just because that's my favorite era of that band. But at the same time, I know that that's not as fulfilling.
And that's the thing too. That's like that really is tough for people to grasp on. And I'm speaking to you fans, if you're listening to this, is that my mindset is not 2012 when I wrote Saloon. My mindset is not 2015 when I wrote Handmade. My mindset is 2018 where I'm totally, if I were to try to write a 2.0 of Saloon, I wouldn't even know what I was thinking. Like, I don't even know how to get back into that frame of mind. So
right.
A lot of musicians have that struggle where it's so hard to tap back into what you were feeling and how you were playing. I mean, people's talent change over years. People's emotions change over years. People's state of mind change over years. And so, you know, it's just like, if I were to try to play the riffs that I was playing back then, I've changed my guitar playing so much. I've changed my vocals so much. It's just like, it's really hard to do that. It's almost impossible, I think.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of taking a step back. And I know that people might sometimes think that you progressing is taking a step back. So say the new album sucks and the old album was better, but that's just kind of it's just the artist. Like it's who they, I guess I just have more appreciation for the fact that I used to really complain about artists not staying the same. And then once I started writing more albums, I started realizing, okay, I get the struggle to try to be who you used to be. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough gig, especially when you're like a lot of albums in and you know, members change. I mean, there's bands that are like 10 albums in now, and I'm like, how did you stay the same 10 times? Holy cow. Like, props to you, man. Like, I don't know how you did that. So I don't know. There's so many different points of view of it. So.
Well, cool. Well, hey, let's talk about some specific tracks off the record. I know we're going to be playing "You Will Go," which I'm guessing based off of the placement of that song, it's almost kind of a continuation of the first track, which is called "Places," which I could be wrong on. Forgive me if I am. But let's talk about "You Will Go." What's kind of the thought process behind that song?
So "Places." If anyone listens to the song. If you listen to the whole album in its entirety, I guess it makes more sense too. But if you listen to the first song, it's basically just a reverse of the very first track of Handmade, which is called Handmade. And basically, it's just reminiscing about all the things I've done in my life and mistakes I've made, things that I am like really proud of, and I'm basically going back to just not really sure what I need to do to continue being the ongoing concept. And when we did the music video, I went back to a bunch of old places we shot music videos in, and just looking back at all the stuff I've done. And I don't know, sorry, I'm eating food right now because I've eaten all day.
Right.
It's like one of those things where the older I get, and it's funny too because we have a song called Domesticated, but I'm going to use Domesticated so many times probably in this interview.
That's all right.
I feel the older I get, the more domesticated I can become, and the more I really cherish the things that I have done. And I also cherish the people that help me do the things I have, like my parents, for example. I'm so appreciative of everything they've done for me. And I feel like I'm looking back at a really immature person now that I'm getting older. So when I went back to some of these places in this music video, I was kind of trying to just think about man, your vision was totally like different than what it is now. Because my vision now is more just providing for other things and doing more domesticated things. And at that time, you know, you had rent-free, living in your parents' basement and having everything that you could possibly want because your parents would buy it for you. And you just had so much. And now you live on your own and you have 3 cats and now you have to pay rent. Like everything is just domesticated, I guess, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't know. It's just a song about looking back on your old self, I guess. I just feel like I went through like a time portal almost where I feel like I became an adult the past couple of years and now I'm looking back. I don't know. Does it make any sense? Paul?
I think so. I think I just heard a harp signaling that we were back. But yeah, for sure, man, for sure. And that is kind of funny because there is that weird moment when you realize, oh wait, I'm actually a big person now. I'm no longer depending on things, and it's weird because you don't really notice it as it's happening. It's just that transition always seems rather blind, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, I'm paying for everything now, and man, there was a lot more before I was.
I think a big part of it was that Ian and Andy both have 2 kids, so when they come on tour with me, it's a big sacrifice for them because they have to leave their jobs and their kids and their wives and do this tour, and so I get to see it from that perspective and like how much they are sacrificing to do this tour, and I feel incredibly bad about myself just because I don't have kids. I'm not married, all I have is 3 cats, like that's it. So I shouldn't be complaining so much about stuff. And so I guess over time you just start to realize that I have it really good and I need to stop complaining and just embrace life for what it is and be very thankful of what I have. And I kind of think that that's kind of what Places is about. And that's why that album cover is my dad looking at me, because it's like the whole point of it is him kind of looking back on all the things that he could have done if he wouldn't have been the person he was. Not saying he is that person, but I'm saying he's like looking back and going, seeing me just fishing off of the dock and not caring about my life and going, if you would have just cared a little more, you could have done something more with your life.
Right.
So that's kind of the whole point of Places. It's just all the places you've been make you who you are. But if you don't embrace it and acknowledge it and reminisce about it and just move on, then sometimes you look back on it and go, man, what if I just would have done this thing instead?
The song You Will Go, I mean, you'd kind of touched briefly that the music video for that was kind of revisiting places that you've been before. What went into that?
The song itself, like I was writing the song. This was actually the first song that we wrote on the record. And it was kind of a long procedure because I kind of wanted something a little more poppy, and I also wanted the screaming. I wanted to kind of try different vocal styles. So it kind of just came with like, it was almost like I wanted more like a poppy synth thing.
Okay.
And I don't really know what came into it because it was one of those songs where I would work on it for like a day, and then I would not work on it for 6 months later. And I'm talking, this song literally was happening. This song was being written kind of like, not lyrically, but more just musically right after Handmade was released. So it's actually a really old song to an extent. So I would not work on it for a long time and just think about it and listen to it over and over and over. And I just was like, what is going on with this song? It doesn't really match with what I'm used to doing, but I love where it's going. And I spent months and months just playing guitar to it and then deleting everything. I'd spend, a few hours a day and then just delete the entire thing and just be like, nope, doesn't work. Because it was just really hard to create that like kind of poppy synth stuff mixed with like a heavier guitar and everything. So, man, it took me so long. I don't know. And on top of that, with the lyrical content, it was just, that was a struggle. And just coming up with like a chorus was incredibly hard. I don't know. That was a hard song to write. And that's how it is almost always with ongoing concept songs, is that there's always this one song that's kind of like a B roll of our last album that I'd never use because I just don't know I don't know what to do with it. Right. And then it ends up becoming our single. So it takes us 2 years to write a song because you know the song Unwanted?
Mm-hmm.
That song was actually being written during Saloons.
Oh,
it
wow.
took us 2 years to write that song, and then that became our single. So it's like, and there's some B stuff off of this new album that might come out in the next album. So it's just a weird thing. It's like, I'm really bad at writing songs really fast, and with singles, I feel like those are the ones that sound the best are always the ones that take a really long time to write. I'm very stoked on how it turned out, but if you would have heard some of the older versions of it, you would laugh because it sounded so bad.
Well, I do find the story amusing in and of itself, so that's all good, man. But I feel your pain. Sometimes it's weird because you know instinctually that there's something there, but it's just a matter of teasing that something out is just so ridiculously hard at times, and that's tough, man.
And it's a tough thing, too, because, like, I struggle with this with my girlfriend sometimes because it's really hard to tell her, like, hey, I'll be home at 7, but then you end up spending 5 hours of just deleting stuff because it's just not good enough. And then by 7 o'clock, you finally get into this frame of mind where you're actually starting to create music.
Right.
And then you're like, I gotta go, but I can't because I'm so, like, everything's starting to click now.
Yeah.
I'm finally there. And that's a big struggle. And I've talked to so many artists about this, and like people that write books and stuff have the same issue where it's just you basically spend a huge portion of it just writing everything that is not good so that you can finally get out all the bad things, and then you finally start getting the good things. So yeah, that should have been the album's name. It should have been like All the Bad Things Are Out.
I kind of like it. I kind of like it, man.
That's how I felt the whole time. Was just spent so much time just getting out all of my bad ideas before I got one single good idea.
Well, dude, there's always the next record. There's always the next record.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know.
True. Very plausible. Oh gosh,
that's funny. All right, well, I want to talk about one more song since we're gonna play "Shake It." Let's talk about that track. I mean, if you could almost picture, because I'm just sitting here looking at the lyrics to it, you could almost picture it being a hip hop song on some level, but obviously it's not. So tell us about "Shake It."
This is funny too, because like I was just talking about how it takes so long to get ideas out of my head.
Right.
This is the complete opposite. I wrote this song in like one day.
Okay.
And it was not the lyrics though, but like the idea of doing it was just so easy and so much fun. And I feel like Shake It is basically like my favorite. It's like who I am. I feel like I just love groovy gospelish. Like some of my favorite bands are like Don Broco and Bad Rabbits and all these like really groovy bands.
Okay.
But I also can't sing or do some of the stuff that these people can do. So I try to blend it in. But Shake It was just so much fun because it was just simple. And it was kind of similar to the song Feel that we did on Handmade.
Okay.
And I love that, whatever the beat is. But yeah, I just felt like it was one of those songs where it has a good amount of kind of screaming, but not actually like really going low, like all that stuff.
Yeah, not growling.
It's not growling in any way. No, it's just fun. I mean, I'm going to sound pretentious, but I wouldn't surprise me if I saw people listen to this at a dance club and actually get down to it and be like, this song's awesome. Because that's the whole point, is I wanted to have people shake it,
Right.
Like dance to this song. That was the whole point of it.
Yeah.
And I'm not a very good dancer, and I don't like dancing. But sometimes when a song hits me right at like a reception for a wedding, then maybe I'll actually do something.
No. You don't get to skate past that. What's the last song that you can remember really hit you at a wedding that you had to get out on a dance floor and dance to?
Are you asking me that question?
Uh-huh.
Well, I'm going to be really secular here, and I'm going to say that one song by Lil Jon called Through the Window. Like that's where if you want to really go that far, yeah, that's where it starts. I mean, if I hear that song, I'm on the dance floor, like, no matter what. But if it's anything else, I'm usually just sitting, being like, I don't want to dance. So, but
just the fact that you know a song off of Crunk Juice, and the fact that you said that was the last song that got you on the dance floor really makes me like you just a little bit more.
That's my favorite song. That's my favorite rap song or hip hop song ever. I mean, I don't know. Something about it is so good. I'm really lame. I'm really lame, Paul.
No. See, now what you don't know about me is I worked at a top 40 radio station when that song was at its total height. So if I had a nickel for every time I had to play that song, either at a party or on the air, I would be so in the money.
You'd be like at Bitcoin right now, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, man. Yeah, so, I mean, oh, gosh, yeah, that song's great. But going back to, like, I like to write songs that just groove and, like, make you actually kind of want to, you know, shake your booty kind of thing, you know, shake it.
Yeah.
So that's really what that song was about. I just can't keep thinking about this other song now. I got it stuck in my head.
Oh, well, I apologize, but I just had to ask.
No. I'm glad that I made you. I'm glad I made you crack up. I am sorry that you had to listen to that song so many times. I'm sure if you had to hear it that many times, you probably would be tired of it.
There were songs I hated a lot more. Oh, there were
Yeah.
songs I hated so much more than that. One of them being "Big Girls Don't Cry" by Fergie. I kind of wanted to hang myself over that song. That was the most terrible song ever.
Oh man, I don't even want to go. Like, if I were to talk about all the bands I hate, I would probably there'd probably be like a post on Facebook right now being like, these are all the bands that Dawson hates because I hate everything. Basically, I'm very, very elitist about what I like and what I don't like. So
we're not even going to try to connect that with the fact that you like "Get Low" by Lil Jon.
It's just one song, man. Just one song. It's like, it's acceptable. It's acceptable.
No, it's okay. It's all good, man. It's all good. Oh, dear. Well, dude, so, I mean, you guys just released this new record. Of course, you know, you're always, I'm assuming, kind of in progress on whatever the next thing is going to be, like we were talking about. But aside from that, like, what do you think is the future for the ongoing concept from where you sit right now?
You know, we're trying to create some content. We don't have any tours lined up currently. It's just one of those years. I'm not really sure. Like, it's more of just a content year, and I think we'll have a few tours coming up later in the year, but I don't think we'll be touring as much as we did last year or the year before.
Okay.
Just because I think things are weird. I mean, Warped Tour's ending, and there's just so much. And a lot of festivals are ending, not even existing. There's not a lot of stuff for people to route out to.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of bands are kind of in the same thing where it's just a tough thing. Everyone just doesn't want to go to shows that much, to be honest. I don't know what's going on. Am I right about that, or am I wrong? I don't know.
No, you're not wrong.
I hear about festivals literally that, like, they either aren't happening or this is the last year for them happening.
Well,
I keep hearing this over and over and over.
I think the biggest problem is there's a generational gap of people who have never been to a concert but believe that they have gotten the full experience by seeing a iPhone video of someone performing in concert on YouTube. And don't get me wrong, there's something kind of fun about that, but at the same time, it's like, that's not the experience. That's seeing something from a completely different level. I mean, there are things that I have filmed at a concert that, looking back at it after the fact, I'm like, oh, I didn't notice that, or that was kind of cool. But you don't get that same rush or feeling, or even just the crowd watching that you can do at a show from watching a YouTube video of it. It's not the same. But unfortunately, trying to convince people of that is different. And then, of course, you know, there's just so many bands to see that even if there were the exact same amount of people going to go see shows now as there were in 1985, I mean, it would be much more diluted. But still, I don't know. I mean, it is a quandary, man. And I don't think there's any one specific problem that can be pointed to for all of it. But at the same time, man, it is terrible.
It is. It's getting very interesting. Like, also, like, cameras are, I mean, like, I've just noticed that there's so many people doing, like, kind of mediocre, like, B-rated, or not B, what is it called? It's not Hollywood status, but it's like B-movie type amateur live videos now that are actually pretty good production, that showcase the band, like Audio Tree, for example. Not bashing them in any way, but there's like, places that are showcasing bands, and then someone listens to it on YouTube and watches it and goes, I already got the experience, I don't need to see it.
Yeah.
But there's so much more involved. So I don't even know why we got on that topic, but it's just a weird year with all of these festivals like not doing their stuff anymore. So there's not a lot of routing for us, and also, you know, financially it's a weird year. And so I think what we're going to be doing mostly for the next 6 months is probably just creating music videos, and I want to do kind of like an acoustic thing as well, maybe like a it's funny that I just said video, but like maybe some acoustic indie type versions of our songs, in a video format, stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, until I know what's going on, I really can't give you much insight. But
yeah,
we're definitely still doing stuff. It's just trying to figure out where the music industry is going at this point.
Yeah. No, I feel you, man. I feel you. And that's tough. I mean, that's not even touching on stuff like streaming and what that does. I mean, it's, you know,
I don't even want to talk about that.
Yeah, everything is just crazy.
If you mention Bitcoin and Spotify one more time, I'm going to punch myself in the face.
Yeah, it's craziness, man. It's just so crazy. But anyway.
Yeah.
Well, dude, thank you so much for spending time with me. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to getting to spend some time with the record, and I hope other people get to enjoy it as well. And whatever happens, man, I mean, keep on being creative and keep on doing what you do.
Of course, man. Thanks, Paul.